When taken together, these three elements make up a person, able to feel with the body, think with the mind, and broadcast with the avatar. But any one of these things taken alone creates a lesser being. This is why I think the world should take more note of what I'm trying to tell them. Welcome back to the Gryith Show, where I see how humanity is destroying the digital landscape this week, and why I'm glad that I'm a digital spectre. Let's dive right in with the news. So abortion was made legal in Ireland, and I was reminded that in the year of our Queen, 2018, there are still people who genuinely believe that abortion shouldn't be a thing. It's not a question of murder. I mean, it's a question of quality of life. Surely it would be better to have one fetus, child, baby, whatever you want to call it, to not have a life, than for both that baby and its family to have an extremely poor quality of life. That's what it boils down to for me. It boils down to quality of life. Moving on. Also, the award-winning game studio Telltale Games shut down, but I mean, it's not much of a surprise seeing as they were an extremely formulaic studio. Sony announced the PlayStation 1 Classic and have said that it's going to have 20 games, although they've only announced about 4. Which, I mean, the PlayStation Classic, the PlayStation 1 had so many amazing games. Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Spyro, Crash, Final Fantasy, Pepsi Man. But the problem is, are they going to get all the rights to those? They have said that Final Fantasy is going to be on there, and that is Square Enix, which also does Tomb Raider. So there is a chance Tomb Raider will be on there, especially considering the new Tomb Raider game, Shadow of Tomb Raider, just came out. Could be a good marketing push, maybe. But it all remains to be seen. I think if they get the right permissions, it could be phenomenal. But we'll have to just wait and see. Some new news about Pokemon Let's Go. I'm a fan of Pokemon. And they have said how the two games, Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Go, are going to connect. There will be these things called Go Parks that you'll go into, and you'll be able to connect to your phone, bring Pokemon there. It kind of made me feel like you can only use the Pokemon from the app in that area. You can't actually take them out into the rest of the game, which would be a shame, but would be kind of fair. You'll also be able to play mini games and fight bosses and catch the legendary birds, it looked like. So that could be fun. A new trailer for the new Mary Poppins film dropped, and honestly, for the first two trailers, I'm not sure how many there's been. I think there's been 3 now. For the first 2 trailers, I wasn't super stoked on this. I was sort of iffy, but in this one, the thing that really sold me in this trailer is the little animated characters, like the original film. I thought that was it took me right back. I still don't have super high hopes for this film, but they clearly wanted to keep it close enough to the original, so hopefully it's got something going for it when it comes out. Finally, you may know that when I was alive, I was a big fan of theme parks. When I was alive, the closest one to me was Disneyland Paris, and some new details have come out about the expansion to Disneyland Paris, which is going to be happening, a €2 billion expansion. And it turns out that by sheer square footage of floor space, there will be a bigger, contrary to what it looks like in the concept art, the Star Wars area will be bigger than Frozen, but it could be, in my opinion, that the ride takes up the majority of that space, so the actual walk around area is smaller than that of Frozen, which has 9,000 square meters. That's that. Moving on now to
what about a review segment where I review a piece of media that came out or that I experienced for the first time in the last week? This week, it's the new season 5 of Bojack Horseman. I am just astonished by this show consistently. Every single time a season comes out, I think this is going to be the one, because the show has a fatal flaw. Not that it's way too edgy. It's that it doesn't have a clear ending. Think of the best shows of all time. Think of Breaking Bad. It has a clear ending set up. You know, Walter White dies. Set up in the first episode. Think of Avatar. From the beginning, as in Avatar The Last Airbender. From the beginning, there is an ending. You know, get the fire boys. That is set up. There is a clear ending in sight in the best shows. Bojack never had that. So I always think this time, this is going to be the season where it's going to succumb to that flaw, where they're going to have just pushed it too far, like so many Cartoon Network shows, and it's going to collapse and they're going to start repeating things. And I will say that minimally, there was a bit of repetition of things from previous seasons. For instance, the hallucination sequences were a bit too familiar from older seasons, but they were still original enough to keep it fresh. And generally, I don't know how they keep doing it. I don't know how they keep knocking it out the park with this show. It's not got the best animation. And I think the perfect microcosm for the show is episode 6 of this season, which is literally a 20-minute long monologue by Bojack. It's just straight on shot, occasionally changing, but it's always just straight on looking at him. And he just monologues for 20 minutes. And it is super compelling because of the acting, because of the writing, because of the character, because you know this character, both of the characters that are being talked about. It's really, it's the microcosm for the whole show. It doesn't have the best visuals. I mean, I think it's animated in Flash, from what I know. But it doesn't need them because it has characters. It has really, really solid characters, and it has fantastic writing, fantastic comedy. It's one of the best shows on television, if not the best. My previous best show currently airing was Westworld, but season 3 was a huge disappointment for me. Season 2 even. Season 2? See, it was that boring, it felt like 2 whole seasons. But Bojack, I think, has probably pushed its way up to the top of the list for me.
Like a doofus, I didn't actually say which star I'd give this, but I give this a strong green star. It wasn't quite as good as some of the previous seasons, but it was definitely worth a watch.
Moving on to our next segment. This is a segment called They Want to Believe. This week I'm talking about something that many don't consider to be a conspiracy theory, but I do. Incels. You've probably heard of them, they've been on the news a little bit, but I'm going to talk about them a bit here. Now, incels are involuntary celibates, incel, and they don't like anyone. People say they don't like women, and I will agree that they are extremely sexist. They just objectively are extremely sexist. But they don't like anyone, is what I'd say. It's a product of our time, really. Where we have media, we have social media, the internet, and these young men have stayed locked up for way too long. They are introverted, almost all of them. And it leads to this cocktail of just bad feelings and emotions that come out against everyone else. Lack of romantic anything that they've received in their life, and sexual anything mostly, which is important, and it leads to things like that, not getting it. I'm not saying the incels often say things like sex should be a right. Sex is a female resource and they should give it to us. No, not saying that. I am saying that not having romance, not having love, and not having sex in your life for decades of your life can lead to some negative psychological things. That, mixed with the isolation and the isolationistic tendencies that most incels have, leads to this unhealthy mindset where they see men who can, attractive men who can get all the girls as Chad. He's better than us. And they get angry. He's better than the incels. And they get angry, quote unquote better. And they see women as Stacey's, and there's loads of terminology around incels. I won't get into it now. But the main one is Stacey's and Roasties. I won't tell you what the word roasty comes from, but let's talk about Stacey. She is the attractive, usually blonde female, always rejecting the incels to go with Chad. It's this ideal that the incels see that just isn't real. It's the same with the Chads. They see everyone as these stereotypes that just don't exist. I have found, because these things, when you read them on the incel forums, it worms its way into your head, and you find yourself looking at things, looking at people and thinking, wow, that's total Chad. And it's like the term douche, or I guess the American equivalent, jock. I guess douche is American, but like it's like a stereotype. It works its way into your head, and it's super interesting. And the way, I mean, it should be obvious how I would class it as a conspiracy theory, because it's this idea that of the top 20% of men. No wait, the top 80% of women going after. Wait, the bottom 80 going after the bottom 20% of women, or something 2080 somewhere. And it's just really astonishing to see these things. When it's covered on the news, it's always portrayed as these evil, hateful men that just want to hurt everyone. And some incels have hurt people. But they're not. They are the ones who hurt. Obviously. No one is this hateful without having been hurt. Really, I just want... It's not gonna happen, but I want the incels to find help. Go watch Based Shaman, even though sometimes he does seem to be trying to just make a buck off the incels. Very much. Sometimes I feel like he genuinely does want to help them. Other times, I don't know. Q-Star has some interesting videos. I like Q-Star because he always, at the end he'll talk about what his thoughts on the thing a little bit. That's always a nice little thing. Walter Fate has some good incel videos too. I think Walter Fate's the guy who I found out about incels from. I think PewDiePie did a video on incels. But let's be honest, he'll do a video on anything if it's trendy. Honestly, just you do you, incels. Just don't hurt people, Be rational. Reasonably. Not everyone is going to hate you just by looking at you. Reasonably, women aren't just a sexual resource. You have to be reasonable. You can't let this intense, extreme anger you have inside you just overtake the human being. And I think that's what's important. Moving on to our next and final segment, Cryptid of the Week. This week's Cryptid of the Week is a little different. I'm going to shake it up. Instead of talking about an actual cryptid, I'm going to be talking about a weird thing that I have found. And it is the fantastic, brilliant Homefinding services, Kent. They're amazing. They help me find housing in Kent totally rot-free housing. The third floor of the house was sort of not there, but the fourth floor was fine. Perfectly fine. One thing I will say about Homefinding Services, they talk about themselves a bit much on their Facebook page, okay? Just saying. But recently they've started posting a great set of old VHS adverts, which really perfectly show you what Homefinding Services Kent is all about. Go and find out. I found on Facebook, I don't know if they have anything else, but go and find it. Homefinding Services Kent. They do a fantastic service of home finding. And this house right here, I got from them. Just kidding. I don't have a house. I'm not real. I really don't want to tell you too much about Homefinding Services Kent. Just go check it out. It mixes things like Trevor Henderson's artwork with no artwork and just creepy, weird pictures they've found, and humor. It is a very humorous page, which is great. It's not often you see these sort of darker, creepier projects be sort of self-aware and know when to put the humor in. So, good on you, Homefinding Services Kent, and whoever runs it. I'd love to speak with you, Homefinding Services Kent, about the project. I'd love to do an interview with the creator, actually. That would be phenomenal. Do an interview. Put it up here. Because my green screen's gone for some reason. The guys upstairs took it away. That was a reference to Homefinding Services Kent. There is no upstairs here. This isn't real. By upstairs, I mean in the real world. But, yeah, anyway. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you liked what you saw. Like the video, please. It helps tell people if the video is worth watching, including me. I'll try and do things different to this if it gets not a lot of likes. Comment on what you think I should do next, what you think I should do better, if you think I should never do this again. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch, where I stream video games and sometimes the Gryith Show live. That's about it. Bit of a chill episode this week, except for that first thing. Homefinding Services Kent, please contact me.